Second part.
Okay, so we're creaming the butter and the sugar together. It's a little chunky right now because my butter was a little bit colder than it should have been, but the pie will still come out okay. So now you take your eggs, and remember we're doubling the recipe. So if you are making one pie, it would only be 3 eggs. Because you're making 2 pies with this recipe, it's going to be 6. 1. You can stir it up in there. Every time you break an egg, just makes it creamier and easier to stir as you go. We're making a custard pie, so we want it to be nice and rich. And the more you cream the butter and the sugar and the other ingredients together, the smoother the pie will be. So that was 2 eggs. We're adding another one. That would be for 1 pie. And again, because we are doubling the recipe, everything's getting smoother. This is the consistency that you want. Follow up on. It's helping to melt the butter. We're going to do another egg. That would make it 4. And it's going to get creamier and creamier as you add the eggs. I suppose you could do it with a blender, but I learned the old school way. My aunties did not have a blender. Back in the day, that was electric, so they used their hands, their arm strength, and I think that's the love that goes into it. So as it gets smoother, you just want to get a little bit faster. That was your 5th egg. 1 more egg. And see how the consistency is getting creamier and creamier? That is your last egg to double the recipe, so 6 eggs. Just creaming out the lumps, making sure the egg mixture is nice and in there. And again, we're going to keep on adding ingredients.
So how many more ingredients do you have to put in?
Okay, just a couple, because it's a very simple pie. Okay, we've already done the sugar, the butter, we've done the eggs. Now we're going to add the 2 teaspoons of white vinegar. I use the cap. So I'm going to do 2 caps of white vinegar. That's our 2 caps. We're just going to stir that in, swirl it in a little bit. That cuts the sweetness, because basically all this pie is a lot of butter and a lot of sugar. You're also going to use a pinch of salt. We're going to do 2 pinches. Again, we're doubling the recipe, so it would be 1 pinch for a 1 pie. This is 2 pies, so that's 2 pinches of salt. I'm going to swirl that in there just a little bit. We're again just squishing down the little butter chunks. Ideally, again, you would have this at room temperature, so the creaming would be easier. And then cornmeal. We need to add the cornmeal, which is also a teaspoon for each pie. Again, we're doing 2 pies. So we're going to double it and add 2 teaspoons. 1, 2. So we have added the sugar, 1.5 cups. Doubling the recipe, it made it 3. We have added the 1 stick of butter for 1 pie. We doubled it, so it was 2. We did 6 eggs, doubling the recipe. 2 teaspoons of vinegar, doubling the recipe, which calls for 1 if it's a single pie. 2 teaspoons of cornmeal. We're going to add the vanilla. And we've already added the pinch of salt. So again, doubling the recipe. I use the cap. Kind of old school. We never measure anything in my family. 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And we are finished pretty much with this pie. We're going to swirl the ingredients together. I'm not savvy, so I get pie shells. I like my certain brands, but you pick the brand that you like, or you can get and make your own pie shell. I've seen it many ways. My aunts would probably kill me if they knew I didn't make my own pie shells. And we're just swirling that right on there, chopping down the chunks of butter. And it's almost like a custardy, puddingy consistency. And we're going to split this recipe between 2 pie shells. Put it at 350, bake it for 45 minutes, and we are done. Cut. And I'm now going to split this batter between the 2 pies. Swirling it for the last couple of times. You're going to fill the pie shell almost 3/4 for each pie. Leaving some room at the top. Bake it at 350 like I said. And it is done.